As we go into topic 3, we're going to start something we'll deal with throughout the course, and that is problem solving. Now, there is a strategy if you were to read your textbook, and they're asking us here, what are the steps? Well, generally, step 1 is to read and reread and read again to try to understand what they're asking. Now, as you read it, you're looking for variables to use in the example, and sometimes diagrams and charts. A tablet of some type, a table, so a picture, something to give you an idea of what the problem is about. Then in step 3, with your variables that you've chosen, you try to develop an equation that something will be equal to something else with the correct letter to solve. Now, once you solve it, that is your next part, solving the equation, getting an answer, and then giving some kind of answer statement. This is solve, and this is an answer statement in which you take what you've gotten as an answer and then apply it to the question they're asking in the example. And of course, we'll see that in a mini scale here, keeping in mind that I do have some additional exercises in which many problems are given and are worked out, if that's what you need. So we'll start off easy, and then there are some key words and phrases that we're going to translate into algebraic expressions. Okay, 6 more than Elena's age. So we're going to say that Elena's age is E, let's say. Could say it's X, but E is nice. And 6 more than her age would just be E plus 6. Now here's one, the difference. We're going to do some subtracting here. So the difference of A and C, A and C. Now here we're going to look at the product of a picture's length and width. So here we might use 2 letters, one for L and one for W. Now, since there's no sign between them, it implies multiplication. And here the quotient that we've used before is just a fraction where the y is on top and the z is on the bottom. So this is a quotient. And the first one goes on top, the second one on the bottom. All right, let's move it up. So as we read this one, we're going to pause it and let you read it a couple of times. Now, what do we know? Well, this is some sort of distance, so I would suggest you make a line to indicate the distance. And this total distance is 4225. Now there's an ice cream shop 4 times closer to Kathleen's house than to Amber's house. So let's put a K on one side and a on the other side. And the ice cream shop is 4 times closer. So we sort of divide that like so. Then to Amber's house. Okay. So what letter might we use here? Well, we could use these, but let's say distance. This is one distance. And this distance we said is 4 of those distance. 4 times closer. Now we know this distance plus this distance equals this distance. So that's our formula. D plus 4D equals 4225. And to solve it, we just combine like terms. 5D equals 4225. Now to find out what this D is, we're going to divide both sides by 5. And we get D equals 845. And we're asked, how far away from Kathleen's house is the ice cream shop? Well, it would be this D. So the answer is 845. Now, if they asked about Arlene's, we would subtract this from the total. That would give us this, or multiply 4 times this would give us the total of that. Okay. Again, for some background on this, we need to look at what are consecutive even numbers. Well, to start us off, let's do consecutive numbers without being even or odd, just consecutive numbers. And if we had 5, and we had 6, and we had 7, these would be 3 consecutive numbers. Now, if we wanted to put this into algebra, and 5 was x, how would I write 6? And if you said x plus 1, that would be correct. And how would I write 7? X plus 2. Okay, these are consecutive integers. Now we want to do consecutive even integers, and we're setting up a model. So let's say 6 is an even integer. The next one would be 8, and the next one would be 10. Now, if 6 is x, how do I write 8 in terms of x? X plus 2. And how do I write 10? X plus 4. So these are consecutive even integers. These are the ones we're going to use when we set up the equation, but we're still doing background information. Now let's do if we had odd integers. We had just consecutive integers, consecutive even. Now odd would be like 7, 9, and 11. Well, if 7 is x, how do I write 9? X plus 2. How do I write 11? X plus 4. And you might say, wait a minute. these and these are exactly alike. How could that be? Well, the key to understanding this is you're defining the first number. Here, if the first number is even, then by adding 2 you get the next even. If the first number is odd, by adding 2 you get the next odd. Some students think they have to add 3 to get it because 3 is odd. But don't do that. That would be incorrect. So these are the same. The difference is what number do you start with? Okay, so we're going to do consecutive even numbers. The sum of them is this. So we're going to use even, so it'll be x plus 2 plus x plus 4 equals 378. And again, we're going to combine like terms. We get 3x plus 6 equals 378. Going to subtract 6 from both sides. We get 3x equals 372. We're going to divide both sides by 3. We get x equals 124. And then to get the others, just add 2. 126 and 128. And if you added these up, it would equal this total. Now, this one isn't too hard. Some of you might say, well, I could figure it out with arithmetic. But remember, if this is on your exit exam and you don't show this formula, you're going to lose points. So knowing the formulas, putting them neatly down in an orderly way, that ensures you get full credit for an answer. And for some of these, you have to think about them, and that's, of course, the challenge. Now, here they're selling their house. They would like to make this much after paying a 5% selling price, 5% of the selling price as a commission. So how much should they sell their house for? Well, again, thinking about it, if you sold the house for $100 and you were going to give a 5% commission, then you take 5% of that, which is 5. So this would be 95% of the house. But they have to sell it for 100% so they can then pay 5%. So a little background. Let's see if we can do a better job here. So they're going to sell their house for a certain amount of money. Let's call that amount of money the sales price, S. Now, when they take the 5% commission out, they're going to end up with this much money. So, what percent of the selling price is this? If they're going to take 5% out on this end. And again, you have to think about this. This is going to be 95%. 95% of the selling price, which we don't know, is going to be this amount of money. That's the amount of money they want, because they're giving 5% of that selling price as a commission for selling the house. And this goes on in real estate all the time. So how do you figure this out? Well, there's your equation. We're just going to divide both sides by 0.95. Divide this side by 0.95. And you get the selling price originally of the house as $246,000. Now, they're not asking how much you're giving as a commission. They just want to know, what do you have to sell that house for in order to end up with this? So this is 95% of the selling price. But we want to know what that selling price is. And this is how you find it. This is the equation that is generated from reading this problem and thinking about it. Now, I've read this over a couple of times, and hopefully you have as well. So you might say, what do I do here? Well, I would suggest you make a picture. Now, the picture is not going to be proportional. Doesn't make any difference if it's proportional or not. But it's a four-sided figure. That's what a quadrilateral shape is like. Now, they're telling us the largest angle is 3 times the smallest angle. Well, we don't know what the smallest angle is. So let's designate the smallest angle as S for the smallest angle. So the largest angle is 3 times the smallest. So that would be 3S. The third angle is 50 more than the smallest angle. So the smallest angle plus 50. And the fourth angle measures 10 less than 3 times the smallest angle. So this is the smallest angle, 3 times it, and then 10 less. So we've taken the information, and again, I've read this a couple of times, made a figure, and we've just designated our angles, and it's not proportional. Now, what is the measure of all quadrilaterals? And the answer is 360. And if you didn't know that, you'd have to know that. So let's start working on a formula. Well, S for our smallest size plus 3S minus 10 plus S plus 50 plus 3S. And all of that will equal 360. Now, what's our first step? Group like terms. So we add up all our S's and we get 8S. Add up all our numbers and get 40. And that equals 360. Now what do? Well, we subtract 40, or transpose it, and that gives us 320. And we divide everything by 8. That's what you said. So we get S equals 40. Now, what are the measures of each angle? Well, we can just put them right in here. The small one is 40. This is 3 times 40 is 120 minus 10. This would be 110. This will be 40 plus 50 is 90. And this would be 3 times 40 is 120. Again, if we added all these up, it should equal what every quadrilateral measures, 340. And what were the steps we used to find it? Well, we read the problem, we made a diagram, we listed our information in the diagram, used the diagram to write out an equation, we solved the equation, we got a basic answer, we looked at the question they wanted us to answer, we got that information in there, and then we checked it, and it adds up to 360. So again, this is the protocol for doing problems like this. Now, for something like this, we look at the chart here, and we're analyzing because we want to find some sort of equation or expression in which we relate the cost of a concert ticket for the person buying this many tickets. So this is the number of tickets. 2 cost 50. 4 costs $100. 6 costs $150. So what do you think is the price of a ticket? Well, if you look at it this way, and this is the number of tickets, 2 times n equals 50. 4 times n equals this. 6 times n equals this. So can you see what is the value of n? Well, we can solve any one of these. Divide both sides by 2. N is 25. So 4n is 100, yes. So what is the cost? Well, the cost, which would be C in a sense, is equal to 25n. And that's what this works out to be. So this is the number of tickets, this is the cost of each ticket, and then this is the total cost. Cost per ticket, number of tickets, total cost. Okay, we'll look at some other problems that we can work on. Again, you're going to take notes, and as you do your homework log, you're going to write all of this, practice and quiz me's out. And then eventually when you take your test, you're going to write that out as well.